be talking about plant diversity and whether or not plants have emotions. So we found our article from Life Science, and the title of the article is "Don't Waste Your Emotions on Plants, They Have No Feelings, Grumpy Scientists Say." And this article kind of talks about how there's this myth kind of that plants have emotions, they can hear music, they care about if you say kind words to them or mean words to them, and as cool as that sounds, the article debunks that theory and instead shows you all of the other cool things that plants can do that isn't exactly feeling emotions, but things that have led people to think that they can feel emotions through that. So it kind of explains that.
Yeah, so some of the key concepts that we took from this article, I'm just going to read out. So the first one would be plant neurobiology. So in the early 2000s, this term was discovered around the notion that some aspects of plants' behavior could be compared to intelligence in animals. So plants don't have brains, but the firing of electrical signals in their stems and leaves trigger responses that hint at consciousness. So this is why scientists back in the day, or 20 years ago, thought that plants did have emotions and feelings, was because of these electrical pulses that went through the stems. The second word would be animal neurobiology, which is neurobiology in animals differs from plants because it is defined as biological mechanisms through which a nervous system regulates behavior. The third one would be neuron-like cells. In 2006, some scientists began arguing that plants possess neuron-like cells that interact with hormones and neurotransmitters, forming a plant nervous system analogous to that in animals. So that sounds like a super complex sentence, but really all it's saying is these plants had these hormones and neurotransmitters which acted like these feelings that animals and other humans have, but really it's just these firing electrical signals like we talked about before. Number 4 is electrical pulses. Some scientists claimed that plants have brain-like command centers at their root tips, but scientists then realized later on that cells in plants communicate through electrical signals, but these signals are only superficially similar to the billions of synapses firing in a complex animal brain, which is more than a mass of cells that communicate by electricity. The fifth word that we found was nervous system. Does it equal consciousness? Ties, who was one of the researchers in this study, said that if the lower animals, which have nervous systems, lack consciousness, the chances that plants without nervous systems have consciousness are effectively none. So pretty much she's saying that because these other animals that, yes, they have nervous systems, but they have a very low consciousness, why would that lead us to believe that that plants have consciousness when they actually don't have nervous systems? And our last word was evolutionary strategies, and that was scientists argue that since plants cannot run away from danger, having a consciousness would be a poor evolutionary strategy. So we disagreed a little bit with this last one. We disagreed with the researchers' point that plants purposely evolved having no consciousness. So what they were saying is plants don't have a consciousness because they didn't want to, or because this was a revolutionary thought that they had. But really, we believe that God had a plan when he created not just humans and animals, but also plants, and he chose them not to have emotions and feelings. And although science proves that plants do not have emotions and feelings, we think that this is a wrong assumption for this outcome. It's because God created these plants this way. It wasn't because of something they chose for themselves through evolution. So here's a quick video for you.
In the 1960s, at the height of the Cold War, CIA interrogator Cleve Baxter hooked his polygraph machine up to a houseplant for some reason. Over the course of his experiments, Baxter observed a change in electrical resistance when the plants were harmed or threatened with harm. This led to the idea that plants possess sentience, that they might even have ESP, extrasensory perception. So, is there any truth to that notion? No. Plants cannot see you, they can't hear you, and they most definitely can't read your mind. But the senses they do have are even more interesting. Plants are literally rooted in have to adapt to what nature gives them. So they've developed special ways of sensing the world and even communicating with each other. The first thing every plant figures out is which way is up and which is down. It's called proprioception, the ability to sense position in space, and we do it too. So how do plants know the difference? Light is an obvious guess, but even seeds that germinate in the dark can aim their shoots and roots correctly. Centuries ago, botanists noticed that an upside-down seedling would always reorient its parts, and that plants grown on a spinning wheel would point their roots in the direction of centrifugal force. It was clear that they were sensing gravity. It was none other than Charles Darwin who showed that the gravity-sensing cells live in the tip of the root. Cut them off and the plant doesn't know which way is down. Cells in the root tip actually contain tiny little bead-like particles. Wherever gravity pulls them, that tells the root which way to grow. Cells in the shoot contain those same gravity-sensing particles, but there they signal the plant to grow away from gravity. We've all seen plants bend towards light. When we walk or drive to get food, plants grow toward it. It's called phototropism. It was Darwin again who tested plants bending to the light. If the tip of a seedling was cut off, the plant didn't change direction. Cells in the growth tip sense light and tell the rest of the plant how to grow in response. Plants can also measure how much light they get, or photoperiodism, which is how they keep track of the seasons. The last light a plant sees at night is in the far red of the spectrum. This longer wavelength light inactivates a light-sensing molecule inside the plant that isn't reactivated until the next morning, when it's hit by light that's a little more orange. Well, this phytochrome cycle measures how much darkness there is. When this internal clock signals that the days are getting longer, plants know that it's spring, and longer nights mean autumn is on the way. Plants don't have noses, but they can detect chemical signals in the air, which isn't that different from what we do when we smell. Ancient Egyptians would ripen their figs by cutting open a few in every bunch. Farmers in Florida used kerosene lamps to ripen oranges, and to soften an unripe peach or an avocado, we put it in a paper bag with a ripe banana. What do all these tricks have in common? Ethylene gas, plants' ripening hormone. It's nice for us at the grocery store, but ethylene helps plants by synchronizing ripening to draw in hungry seed-dispersing animals. And it's also one of the signals that tells leaves their job is done for the year.
So that video was by It's Okay to Be Smart, and the title is Do Plants Think? So that video basically animated all of the ideas that were in our article that we pulled up off Life Science. So he talks about how plants find the center of gravity, how we've been dealing with plants since even the ancient Egyptians, and how plants have adapted into growing and being like the way and functioning the way they are, but they haven't evolved, and there was no great evolutionary mind change for the plants. It was simply God created them this way, and this is how they've been since Adam and Eve.
So we took a look at how this applies to our lives. As Corbin students, I'm sure, especially probably more for the girls, but you've probably seen other people's dorms and seen a lot of plants around on the window sills and just everywhere. It's a big thing right now, which we love. But we also believe that with this knowledge that plants do not have emotions, we can spend less time singing and reading poetry to our leafy friends and spend more time doing our homework or spending time with the Lord. But in all seriousness, with this knowledge, we can actually spend more time and effort focusing on things that are really important and beneficial for others rather than ourselves. Like we said, we can still sing to our plants that maybe they won't actually, it's not actually doing anything, so feel free to do that, but we can spend more time doing things for others as well.
So we are called to be good stewards of this planet that God has created. Having better knowledge of plants can help us take care of God's creation. So just some Bible verses I have. The first one is found in Psalms 24:1. On the contrary, we know that the earth is the Lord's and all it contains, the world and those who dwell. So obviously this earth belongs to God, and we want to take care of the earth that belongs to God. I mean, I do, but Next verse from Deuteronomy 10:14. The Lord your God belong the heavens, even the highest heavens, the earth and everything in it. Just another one about how this is God's earth for us, where we are blessed to live. And so treating things well and having the knowledge to treat things well is extremely important. But ask the beasts, and they will teach you, the birds of the heavens, and they will tell you, or the bushes of the earth, and they will teach you. And the fish of the sea will declare to you, who among all these does not know that the hand of the Lord has done this? In his hand is the life of every living thing and the breath of all mankind. Job 12:7-10. I definitely wanted to focus on or the bushes of the earth, and they will teach you, just kind of emphasizing how we are learning from plants and how through God's amazing creation of plants, we have learned through them like medicines, all sorts of great things through that. But just learning how to correctly take care of plants and not giving plants like this kind of higher level of being than they actually are, obviously. But, so yeah.
So do we have any questions? Nope? Okay. Here are our Works Cited page. Thank you guys for listening, and hope you are enjoying your break and not getting sick. Bye.